Welcome, everybody, to Behind the Madness. The Konabos March Madness 2024 contest is nearing the final. The last couple of days here we're now into April, stretching this March Madness on. And you heard earlier this week from Squiz co-founder JP Siriatovich. And then today we are very happy to be joined by Eli, the founder and CEO of Constructor. Eli, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's Ellie. It's pronounced weird, but you're all good.
Cool, Ellie. Appreciate it. So, Ellie, let's first. I want to ask you about March Madness real quickly. I'm interested from your vantage point as the leader of the company, how this campaign came into your view, and really the level that Constructor has gone at through these rounds has been quite inspiring. Someone we had not been, Konabos had not been very aware of. But what has it been like seeing this from your vantage point?
It's been fun. Some folks within the company, I think, saw us tagged when you were doing the qualifying round or something like that. And they thought this might be fun, and I don't know, I guess it's kind of taken on a life of its own since.
Yeah, no, it's really been great to see and try to create some cohesiveness behind this. Not only Madness in March, but there's so many companies innovating in this space. I mean, there were 100+ companies who just were nominated into this humble little campaign. And so it's really been something to behold, especially from in this round, Constructor and Squiz. Ellie, what's your background before we talk about your company? Where are you from? What's kind of your entrepreneurial journey that's led you to this moment?
I'm Ukrainian. I was born in Ukraine, but I moved when I was little. I grew up mostly in Tennessee, and was working as a data scientist before Constructor, doing things similar to what I'm doing now at Constructor, except now I don't get to program anymore. Constructor, for anybody who doesn't know, what we do is we're a product discovery platform for large e-commerce companies. So if you go onto one of our customers like Sephora or Under Armour, if you're searching for something or you're browsing for something, we're the thing that powers what products you see. So we want to make sure that every person gets to see products that are personalized to them, that are attractive to them.
Wow. And you're very involved with MACH Alliance, correct?
Yeah, a little bit. I like those folks.
Yeah. So do you think MACH Alliance really is trying in many ways to connect these best of breed services across the entire really technology stack, right? From all these products where in the past, in the monolithic times, a company would try to provide all of these services in one platform. And then, MACH, as that decoupled into best of breed products across all of them, then you need something to kind of reconnect them to help customers who could probably be a little overwhelmed with it all. Is MACH almost something, is this composable world something that really makes your product possible, that you could be a best of breed at this kind of one part of a stack where you saw an opportunity?
So MACH is in a lot of ways a certifying body. We've got this problem within software that you folks probably run into as well, that as soon as there's something that customers realize is a good idea, you'll have just about every vendor start to put a sticker onto their website, just tattoo something to their forehead that says like, we're composable or we're AI or whatever. And you can't stop somebody from claiming something, but it causes confusion within the market. And so I think the genesis of MACH was having a certification, at least for composability. So it stands for microservices, API first, cloud native, and headless. And so making sure that you have all of those things, that you're not just saying that you have all of those things, that you're not actually like a monolith underneath the hood. It required maybe somebody making sure that that's true instead of just believing what somebody says about themselves.
Absolutely. So when we look at Constructor as a company, you told us in essence the elevator pitch there of what it does. What's the origin story of your company? Where did it emanate from? Was there a good coffee or a beer somewhere and a napkin, or where did it start from?
Had a few beers over the years. My personal background was I was working as a search engineer at a company called Shutterstock. This was over a decade ago at this point. My co-founder's from there as well. He was the former CTO over there. He was my boss's boss, but I got lucky that he was subbing in as a PM for the search team just because we didn't have a PM for a little bit. And we got to talking about how just about all search that we had run into for e-commerce, it felt like it was solving for the wrong things. Like people would talk about these words like relevance, like how relevant the results looked, or speed, like how fast the results came back. And it never felt like that was like, we talk to anybody within the business side of the company, it never felt like those were the things that were the most important to them. Like what was most important to them was how much revenue is search driving? How many conversions is it driving? These sorts of things. Like, are you actually helping people find things that they want to buy? Because that's the reason that on the e-commerce site in the first place. And so like, no matter how relevant I think something looks, or no matter how fast it comes back, like if it doesn't do those fundamental things of helping people find things that they want to buy, it kind of doesn't matter. But the search technologies of the past, the product discovery technologies as a whole of the past, they weren't built for that. What they were built for was either being the most relevant, quote unquote, or being the fastest. And so we thought there's a better way for e-commerce. Why don't we just solve for what the customer actually cares about, which is connecting shoppers to products that they actually want to buy. And if we do that, it feels like we can give a better experience to everybody, and everybody along the way wins. And so that was kind of the genesis of Constructor.
It's really interesting the way search tends to be the starter for a lot of companies in this industry, because it's in kind of the old ways of the web. You think about building a website, you think about all the different pages you're going to have, but it's really a top-down. This is what we feel is going to be the right look, content. And then on the other hand, we've always seen a focus on search as in Google search. Like, how are we going to use a Google or Bing now, or all that to get people to our site? But it makes so much sense when you think about it that search within sites, within applications, is one of the clearest opportunities that was really kind of laying there in wait much of the time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you were talking about the MACH Alliance before, and how it was a counterbalance to monoliths. I think with search and product discovery, we had a similar problem, but a little bit different. So what we had is there were many search solutions that were built as a one-size-fits-all. So they were built not just for e-commerce, but they were built as powering search for anywhere that you want. So they would, not only power search for e-commerce, but maybe they'd also power search for documentation, and they'd also power search over somebody's blog, and they'd also power search over like Slack or something like that. And like all of these they all are search, but underneath the hood, like they're different problems. The things that you're solving for in each of those cases are different. And so you kind of had to go to these lowest common denominators of either solving for relevance or solving for speed, instead of within any of those use cases solving for the things that the company actually cares about. And so this is the thing that we really wanted to contend with. It was, we'll have maybe a smaller market than those other companies because we'll only be focused on e-commerce, but the place that we are focused on within e-commerce, because of the way that we're built, because we're built to solve for the thing that the shoppers and the retailers actually care about, we'll be able to do a better job than anybody else. And that won't be something that you need to trust me on, like the same way that MACH is there because some people are not trustworthy. I wouldn't expect anybody to trust me just because I'm saying it. You can actually A/B test it and you can see if it actually works better for you or not.
So on the marketplace that we all live in, in this madness. What, how do customers, how do customers tend to find you? And are there specific, the MACH, for instance, has a lot of different providers, whether it's headless CMS, commerce. Are there certain platforms that you tend to group with as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you were exactly right. You said something that I think a lot of people run into at the beginning of this, which is you had not heard of Constructor, and I think that's true for most people. Like my background is not marketing. None of the leadership or founders' backgrounds was marketing when we started. It's not really part of our DNA. So the way that most people discovered us is they heard about us from somebody that had used Constructor beforehand. Like we got lucky that we got some early customers that at least I think we did an okay job for, enough that they were willing to recommend us to others. And the word kind of spread that way. So we power some of the biggest online e-commerce sites anywhere. There's some pretty big ones that I'm not allowed to mention, but aside from those, like if you're looking regionally, like we power, let's say, Berry Group in the UK, which is one of the biggest retailers over there. If you're looking globally, we power search for Sephora, for Under Armour. If you're looking within Australia, we power it for like Kmart Australia, for Target Australia. So it's some of the biggest e-commerce sites in the world, but you're right, like nobody's really heard of us, and it's because marketing wasn't really our background. And we're it's one of the things that's a little bit bittersweet about the whole March Madness thing. This is not usually the sort of thing that we're good at. So I'm kind of very surprised that we're in the finals.
Well, what they call it in March, Cinderella, your Constructor Cinderella, right?
There we go. I'll take it.
You're making a run through it. Do you find that the kinds of customers you speak to tend to be more digitally mature on the gamut of things, because you're ostensibly playing in a market that is a little more advanced, right? Do you think, or do you surprise yourself sometimes with who might find you and where your technology is applied?
I think when we first started, it was companies that were more digitally mature, and it was because they could A/B test quickly. So they hear what we say, maybe they think, oh yeah, maybe this makes sense, but they're going to actually try it, and they're going to see, like, does it actually work for them? And they can do that relatively quickly because of the digital maturity level. But over the last, call it 3 years, it's been changing. So I think that there's a lot of other companies that they see that the product has been de-risked, because now they're not the first ones that use it. Like, they can go onto their website and they can see, okay, there's a case study with Grove Collaborative and with Sephora and with Petco and with all of these other companies that you probably heard of it. You're like, okay, well, if it worked for all of them, maybe it'll work for me as well.
Yeah. This might be a strange question, but is your solution more self-service, or is there still quite a bit of, implementation work that you need to do as a company when you have a new customer?
So we want to make sure that every single company that tries to install Constructor is successful with Constructor. One of the things that we're proudest of, and I think we have to build the company this way because traditionally we weren't great at marketing, is we have a really, really good retention. So our retention rate for the last 3 years has been north of 97%. Very few companies that try Constructor wind up leaving Constructor. And a lot of that is because anybody that trusts us, that's willing to try it, like, we're going to do everything that we possibly can to make sure that it's successful. So you can self-service it. Like, if you want to implement it yourself, you can. We have customers that have done it that way, especially those that are a little bit more tech forward. But if you can't do it yourself, if you need a little bit more hand-holding, like, we have teams for that as well. We'll help you. If you trust us, we're going to make sure that you're successful. And I want to make sure that the numbers always back that up in terms of the retention rate.
It's a very good retention rate. On that point, do you find that in this SaaS MACH world, there really does seem to be, sales is still very important, but it feels a little less sales focused and a lot more what they call customer success focused. It's that idea of retention. It's that idea of keeping the customer abreast of what's on your roadmap, what they can be, what they could utilize, right, on a very regular basis. Do you see that kind of transition in your company?
I think so. I mean, for us, like, I'd put it this way. I think every company winds up, at least when they're younger, and this winds up having a little bit of a part of the DNA of the company, they wind up focusing on what the founders are good at, which makes sense because, you know, I'll do the thing that I'm good at, and if I try to do things that I'm not good at, then we probably won't have a very successful company. So you see some companies that were started by people with a background in sales, and like they're fantastic at sales. You'll see others that were started by people with a background in marketing, and they're fantastic at marketing. And the thing that we wanted to be really good at is my background is data science. My co-founder's background is tech. So we were like, okay, well, that's probably the thing that we can do better than anybody else. We're probably not going to be able to outsell people, but if we can get people to try the product, we can be like, look, like, you don't need to believe me. Like, you don't need to buy something because I'm very, very good at pitching it or something like that. Like, just try the product. A/B test it against whatever you had beforehand. If you wind up seeing a revenue lift that's much bigger than the cost of the product, then buy it. We would love to work with you. And if you don't, then I don't know why you would work with us. And that's worked really, really well for us up until now.
Where does the name come from?
Constructor. It was my co-founder's idea, but I liked it a lot because it reminds me of the word for a Lego in Russian, which is my native language. So I like the idea of being like a building block for other people's e-commerce ambitions.
I like it. Last question. If whatever happens this year in March Madness, you have made it to the final two. Unbelievable run by Constructor. If next year we're back in it and we're having this interview, where do you think Constructor will be? Where do you think Eli will be? What do you feel about the next year?
I mean, I hope that we'll be helping retailers and brands and other e-commerce companies find success online. If we're doing that and we're earning our customers' trust, then I can wake up and feel pretty good about myself. I'm constantly terrified of winding up resting on our laurels or something like that. So if we don't do that and we still care, then I'll be really, really happy, and that's my plan.
Well, Eli, thank you so much for taking part in this and really just going after Konabos March Madness, and I look forward to staying connected. And now Konabos, we both have CONKON in the front of the names here. Maybe we can look into, now we can actually look into what we both do.
Exactly. Better reason to be friends.